Okay, are we good now?
I am so good. I don't know why Discord has had this weird problem where, like, I'll just plug in a webcam and then it just, for whatever reason,
It changes the output,
still working, but then I guess the audio from Discord was going through my webcam, so very strange. I was like, I don't have you muted. What? I'm like, I didn't change anything. My Discord worked like yesterday.
Yeah.
So I had to just go into sound settings and so
sometimes sound issues, man. Sound issues cause they're the worst when it comes to LAN events. When it comes to just Discord, I think we don't use Skype anymore, but advanced a little bit since then. But it sounds like we're good though. That's the point. And as I was saying, no, but you're going to be going to Ukraine, so obviously we're so happy to have you here. But that's why we're doing a Sunday podcast. You're definitely looking forward to a good flight though ahead of you.
I'm currently in my sleep-deprived mode that I purposely put myself in prior to very long flights. So I'm like, I'm functional, but I'm just a tad slow. I'm chilling.
Okay.
I'm relaxing. It's funny because even in just my pre-stream where I was saying hi to all the viewers and stuff, I'm just a bit slow to construct my thoughts. I'm thinking, I'm like, okay. Translate thoughts to words, and then sometimes it just doesn't work. And usually when I'm tired, it's a little bit slower, but it's all good. It's like I'm in a good mood, because I purposely did this. But it's like, I'll let you take the reins today.
I hear what you're saying. I'm fine with that. And that is interesting because whenever I have a long travel ahead of me, I've tried that before, and I don't know, something about it. I'm usually able to sleep pretty well on planes no matter what. So because I've traveled so much by now that I'm a little more comfortable with being able to do it. But everyone has their own way of going about it. So setting yourself up to then just pass out on the plane is certainly a good way to do it there.
I actually just like I can sleep normally, but I sleep like a dang baby. Like I had a 15-hour flight. I sleep like a baby. I had the 15-hour flight, and I got onto the flight, and within 30 minutes I'm gone, and I just wake up and I'm halfway there, and I'm like, this is nice. I'm halfway there. I didn't even feel like that entire first 7.5 hours even existed. So at that point, like a 7.5-hour flight, you're looking at maybe I always bring a book. So I can read that for a couple hours. You're looking at 1 or 2 movies, and then you're just there. And it's actually, I agree. I haven't traveled nearly as much as most other casters, but I have already gotten the hang of realizing that you get used to it pretty quick. It's only after maybe 3 or 4 long travel journeys, you kind of just learn to cope with it in your own way. So a lot of people, I think they think the flights get really rough, and I thought my first couple flights, like God, those were dreadful. But nowadays, it's just, I don't get anxious. I'm not worried or
that's good.
Whatever. It's just got to get it done. One day tomorrow I'll be somewhere else. That's all I know.
That's awesome. Yeah, and that somewhere else again going to be in Bukovel. I believe that's how it's pronounced. Bukovel, Ukraine.
I don't know, man. I don't try.
Just
it makes me look worse by trying, so I just don't.
Fair enough. Okay, so of course that's the minor that you're going to be going to for the WePlay minor that starts on Tuesday. So you're going to be flying in, and then shortly after, things getting going. So that's you're looking forward to this event, I assume. Are you looking forward to working with WePlay?
It's like a ski resort.
Yeah.
And also like we're not required to bring suits. Like normal casting suits.
That doesn't surprise me.
And WePlay asked for our sizes, so I'm assuming we're getting all dressed up by WePlay themselves. So I'm looking forward to wearing. I remember watching their tournament. It was either last year or the year before, where everyone was in like a Valentine's Day onesie.
That I was at.
So, yes. So I believe we talked about that last week. So I'm definitely looking forward to whatever garments they choose to dress me in.
Yeah, I was gonna say that doesn't surprise me. WePlay is one of those organizers that they have their own ideas, and as you said, in this case, it's at a ski resort, and I'm guessing it's gonna be a very ice or snow theme, even very winter like theme. So I genuinely am really looking forward to seeing what they put on production wise and seeing what costumes they put you in, especially.
Yeah, I'm gonna look amazing either way. And I mean, it's gonna be freezing ass cold there. It's like 25 degrees to 10 degrees Fahrenheit, like negatives in Celsius. And,
Yeah.
I mean, I got a leather jacket for Christmas, which is nice. So I can, those things are warm. I didn't realize how warm leather jackets are. I got my ski jacket. I'm gonna have to buy some ski pants if I can go ski. If I get to go skiing, yes.
Do you ski? I mean, is that something that you have history
Yeah,
with?
it's been a really long time, maybe like 5 years since I skied.
Okay.
But when I was a kid, there's like ski resorts like 2-hour drive from Phoenix up in the mountains. So I did a decent amount of skiing growing up. So I am competent at skiing, but would I call myself a skier? No.
That's fair. I've done snowboarding in my past personally, but yeah, no, I'm kind of the same way. It's definitely not a snowboarder. I'll go and have some fun and do my best with it, but by no means do I consider myself.
Yeah, I'm chilling on the blues, just
exactly
doing my own thing. I'm not
the
there
bunny hills, with the 5-year-olds. Make sure you're not falling.
Like the 9-year-olds. Come on.
A little older. Okay, that's fair. Yeah, honestly, I'm a little surprised they're not having you come out earlier because, again, this is an organization that loves to do like a lot of content and stuff. So that'd have been. But you're gonna get there and the next day you're starting casting. I'm getting.
Yeah, I have no idea exactly what's going on, but I've learned that when I plan ahead for these events, I just get more because usually they kind of mix things up. It never goes exactly according to what the schedule says or whatever. So
yeah,
I'm like, I'm not going to think about it. I'm going to know what I need to bring. I'm going to know what I need to do for my job. And you probably know more about the schedule than I do because whenever I look at it, it confuses me. And like, I learn to expect things to be on time and be normal. And then when you get expectations, that's disappointment, et cetera, et cetera. So I've learned that the best approach is make sure I'm ready to do my job, do my homework for the event. But then aside from that, we're chilling. So
you know what? So yeah, chilling. That's a good word for that, isn't it? I apologize actually. So it just starts on Thursday. So I guess not to scare you. From what I'm looking at now, it does start on Thursday, not Tuesday.
Better. Yeah, that sounds way better.
You're not gonna, so you do have a little bit of time to get your composure going. Yeah, I didn't mean to scare you right there, BSJ.
We're good. I was like, that sounded early, but I don't have the facts to refute you there. So
all right. Well, I'm looking at Wikipedia, and that's what we're going to help reference us. In fact, of course, this podcast, not only are we doing it on a Sunday, because BSJ going to be leaving later today to fly out to Ukraine to cast the minor that, as we just found out, starts on Thursday officially. But we figured, of course, we would preview said event, and take a look at a couple of topics from it as well. So with that in mind, we got 8 teams, of course, attending this minor. You're looking at a CIS, you have Gambit and Spirit. Out of North America, you have NIP and Fighting Pandas. Europe, you have Nigma. China, Royal Never Give Up. Geek Fam from Southeast Asia, and Furia out of South America. So those are the 8 teams that are going. Again, you look at those 8 teams initially. Now, a couple of talking points from that. First being, we're looking at Nigma. Nigma's no doubtedly, I don't think in anyone's mind, definitely not on mine. Maybe yours, who knows? But they are the favorites this event. This is the X-Liquid squad, of course. It's kind of silly to almost not think that they are the favorites. How heavily favorites, though, I guess, is the ultimate question to kind of go with right here. And frankly, this seems like, yes, you have a couple of other teams that could compete, but I think Nigma should absolutely run away with this event.
Yeah, I'm kind of crossing my fingers that they don't, make it interesting. I think the difference between like this tournament and the One Esports tournament now is that for the most part, I think people have kind of figured out this patch, at least to the extent of what heroes are really strong, at least the most popular 5 to 10 heroes. And that's kind of the start of what develops the meta. So, the heroes that start to get good are the ones that are good against what's good. Mm-hmm. So heroes that counter what are being highly prioritized, the Tinies, the Dooms, the Pucks, the Slarks, what are good things that are good against that may see more play. But teams like Liquid, I think they're just going to pretty much put on a clinic for this event. And I'm on the same page as you with my prediction, but I'm also rooting against that happening because it'd be much more interesting if let's go Fighting Pandas. Let's go win the tournament. So
Hey,
that'd be a lot better storyline. 50-50 EE on Reddit. Eternal Envy diebacks in game 3, or Eternal Envy wins minor going to major. You know, that would be that's what I'm looking to see.
That would be pretty intense. I will say, in the sense that this is still a fairly newer patch for a lot of these players. Again, as major as it was, we did have the one esports invitational, but I was checking back, and none of these teams were at that event, right? Just about. Gambit was. So Gambit was the only team
and they had a poor performance.
And no, they actually did pretty well. They got to third place. In the
oh
event.
My God! I'm thinking of the wrong team. I was like, "Holy crap!" I'm like, "Wait a minute! No, you're right.
Gambit. So Gambit actually got third place, losing the Vici game, and of course won it all in the end. So they actually even came from the winter final. So I guess from that perspective, you do have to think that Gambit almost has should have a solid shot, perhaps, because they've already proven that they're decent on this patch.
Yeah, for whatever reason, I just thought of Gambit during the previous major, and I was like, yeah, they didn't look impressive. But yeah, so. The weird thing about that tournament was VG Gaming was most notable because throughout the course of the tournament, it seemed like they really adjusted. I think pretty much nobody else at that tournament really proved to me that they adjusted to the meta, like what people were doing. All they did was they came in with a plan, and whoever's plan was better got farther. So I thought Gambit's a good team, but I'd like to see now. If I just thought Vici's drafts were expertly constructed in a way that was like, okay, if we pick Puck, it looks completely broken, but if the opponent first picks Puck, it looks useless. And I thought that was really just impressive to me as drafters. And I didn't feel like any of the other teams did that. I felt like at the end of the tournament, teams like Gambit and EG were pretty much stuck doing this whole draft whatever we think is our best lineup for us, and we're just going to stop caring about what the enemy team's doing because we don't actually know what to do to fix this. That's what I felt like they were doing a lot of. Mm-hmm. So with Gambit, even though they had a good performance, I'm not 100% sold that they can do more with the patch than they did in that tournament. So there's so many questions about every team but Nigma, and that's what makes me think Enigma or Team Nigma is going to run away with this tournament. I look at every team and like hesitations. You got roster swaps, you got NIP who's looked a little shaky, you got Gambit that I already talked about. I don't think Team Spirit's looked all that impressive. South America, other than Beast Coast, hasn't really proven themselves yet.
You got Fighting Pandas coming off their WESG victory over you guys recently.
Hey,
I mean, that's a pretty.
That in and of itself is worth mentioning. That's a pretty impressive feat. Not only did they beat us, but they also 2-0'd us. So
yeah,
that
Not to bring up bad memories. I'm sorry.
Do that, man?
Oh, now you're just going to be zoned in on that the rest of the podcast.
I'm going to be self-conscious about
why didn't we do this?
Why did we have to lose that, man? Damn it.
No, but Fighting Pandas is certainly it's 50-50 for a reason. They're definitely one of these teams. And again, this is only an 8-team tournament. It's not the 16 like the major. So you look at the all-around competition, and if we're saying not Nigma and somebody else, I would maybe I don't know. I can't say I would lean towards Fighting Pandas. I do think Gambit, coming off that recent experience, even at that high level, certainly vouches for them to have also a good opportunity to finish well, if not surprisingly win it all. But Fighting Pandas for me would be in that right under them in that next tier, of course, of having a breakthrough in this tournament. So.
I mean, there's definitely this tournament is a potential breakthrough for every team. I'd say any team that isn't Team Nigma that wins it is maybe, other than Gambit. I guess Gambit's kind of not, but all the other teams would be a huge
big deal
accomplishment for them. Yeah. So even in IP, like if they were to win, that'd be a huge deal for them. Most notably, Gunner being a carry player now from that lineup. I'm very confident that he's a very good player, but just like watching him play carry a bit, mechanically skilled, plays team fights really well, but there's a lot of carry matchups and like lane matchups that you just don't know unless you've played them 10 times. And the only worry I have about a player like him is that, he's played mid lane his entire career. So naturally he's never played these matchups ever. So I was watching him a bit, and I've just learned through my own failures that going into pro matches, if you don't exactly understand a matchup or exactly understand what you're supposed to do to push your advantage, and the other guy does, you look really bad. So that I'm really concerned about that for NIP moving forward.
Yeah. Do you know much about Tanner, by the way, the player Tanner himself?
Absolutely.
I was gonna say, okay.
Kind of like I've heard good things about him. But that's about it. I've heard that he's an impressive player, but from my perspective, I'm like, I don't know, like where they found this guy in the sense that like, why him? What has he done to prove himself to PBD? So
he did something.
The best part about Tanner, somebody already mentioned in chat, is the memes in Twitch chat. The Tanner from high school. That's the best part about. I'm looking forward to watching some NIP games and seeing some Tanner from high school spammed in chat. So.
Yeah. That's going to be fun. Okay, so Royal Never Give Up is definitely another team you have to at least give some consideration for. Of course, representing China, a solid squad that they have right there, and they weren't in the major, I guess, last time around, but I believe they were at least in the last minor. As
yeah,
well.
They were.
Were they in the major?
Wait, did they? I actually need to check this. I don't even want to say they were, because.
MDL major. I'm checking right here. Yeah, they were not in the major.
And were they in the minor?
They were not at the minor. You're right.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think they made either.
That was just IG. That's right. Obviously, IG.
Yeah, I was like, they weren't at the major for sure, and then it was just IG at the minor.
So they came up short. Yeah, they lost in the qualifiers.
Very competitive region. It's not all that like alarming for a Chinese team to not make it, because fifth best Chinese team is by no means
could have a shot of winning this.
Yeah. We saw that with IG, right? Like fourth best Chinese team just came in and swept the field. So the fact that RNG made it out of the qualifiers this time around, I don't know what to expect from these teams. Like I look at so many of these teams and I'm just like, okay, are they going to over prepare for Team Nigma? Is some random squad like I'd say RNG is probably in my top 4, and are they just going to randomly lose to like Fighting Pandas because they're not worried about them? What? Because there's definitely tier classes in this event, and like last minor, on paper it seemed even, but then we kind of talked about IG being the standalone here. And I think it's interesting that North America only got 2 slots to the major this time, but I don't think their teams are good at all. Like I thought Chaos was like really going to make I thought Chaos had a potential to win the last minor.
Yeah.
Obviously getting second. Now they're in the major. But I don't think anyone other than RNG or Gambit can maybe take this off of Nigma. So I'm definitely going to keep an eye out for RNG and Gambit, most notably.
Well, we also really should, and this is kind of rare, where frankly we have group stage information at this point. Usually it's like a day before that comes out, but we have it, and so we can talk about that here real quickly. As far as the 2 groups, Group A, you're looking at Geek Fam, NIP, RNG, and Spirit, and then Group B, you have Fighting Pandas, Furia, Gambit, and Nigma. So, I mean, I look at those groups right there, and personally, especially after what we're just sitting here talking about, I definitely lean towards Group B as being, as you always like to say, the group of death, whatever, the harder group. Not only because Nigma's there, but Gambit Esports also happens to be in that same group. That's even less reason to have the expectation that a team like Fighting Panda could move on, as only top 2 in the group then move on to the playoff stage in the 4-team playoff, where then you find out the eventual champion. So those are how the groups are set up. And again, me personally, I look at that Group B.
Double elimination playoffs?
It is double elimination playoffs, yes.
Okay. I was confirming. Okay, I was confirming about that. Okay. I was like, I don't think they get eliminated in the group stage. I was confused. I must have misunderstood you there.
No, they do. They do get eliminated in the group stage, though. So
really?
yeah, that's how it's working. It's a GSL format, its own double elimination group stage, and then the bottom 2 teams are eliminated. So
I see. Because it looks like the teams. Okay, I now see what I'm saying. Because I'm looking at the playoff bracket, and I'm like, it looks like they just do the normal thing where 4 teams go to the bottom. No, so you are eliminated. I mean, I can't imagine Enigma Gambit not being the 2 teams out of Group B with Fighting Pandas and Furia just getting, I would say, stomped by those 2 squads. I think that's like that gap in skill or whatever you want to call it.
sure.
Caliber of these teams is just drastic. And the other group, though, you talked about Geek Fam, NIP, RNG, and Team Spirit. These are pretty much the 4 mid-tier teams. I think they did a pretty good job with this 1, 2, and 1 group, in my opinion, or maybe 1, 3, Gambit being second or third, and then all the other teams that are like 4 through 6 or like 3 through 6.
Yeah.
In terms of power ranking in this event are all in the same group. So I think that is actually pretty fair. So all these teams, Geek Fam, I think we're going to talk about Ryoya coming up here, getting kicked right before the minor. You have the NIP roster swap as well. You have I think Royal Never Give Up is just a question mark for me because they haven't exactly done anything yet other than just qualified to a minor, and then Team Spirit's definitely like shaky. So
yeah,
I think that this could be anybody could come out of this group. I would not feel comfortable betting on 2 teams to come out of this group stage on Group A.
Yeah, no, Group B is certainly the more obvious one. When you do look at it, that's where you almost feel bad to an extent for a team like Fighting Pandas, especially where it's like, if they replace any of the 4 teams in the other group, you kind of swap them, then all of a sudden Fighting Pandas maybe has a pretty good shot of potentially moving into the playoffs at least, and who knows what can happen. But point is, that's not the case. You got to be matched up against somebody in the groups in the end, and just happen to potentially get the tougher group as far as the obvious top 2 moving out. So. But you touched on it there, so we might as well transition. And something else I actually overlooked, too, on this topic of teams replacing players after they qualify for an event, in this case specifically a DPC event, and this being the minor, and replacing a player after they qualify but before the actual event itself. And you even mentioned it with Tanner replacing Skitter for NIP, then now have Gunnar moved to position 1, Tanner now playing position 2 for the team after they had qualified. And then for Geek Fam, Ryoya actually getting replaced by Carl. Carl, a Filipino player himself. Of course, the organization, is really from the Philippines, or from Southeast Asia in general, but you have Raven and Kuko on that squad, also from the Philippines. Point is, Ryoya going over there from the Americas to play for a team like this. And then, as he pointed out in an interview, this was caught off guard. He was caught off guard by this, and all of a sudden, after Christmas break happens, he's informed that no longer part of the team and not going to be attending the minor as a result. Now, in his case, and I assume it's the same case for Skitter, they are working on a deal in terms of the prize pool money, so they'll still get a portion of that, which is nice and frankly should be the case, obviously. But it does bring up the point of the discussion, really, of should teams even be allowed to do this? The idea that they can remove a player after they qualify for an event and go in with a different roster just because they feel like it.
I personally don't think so. I think that rosters should be locked other than due to medical reasons or something, like the problem is, you give the argument that if the team mutually agrees, meaning the player, what's the word I'm looking for? Like the player amicably departs from the team. That the problem with that is that if that kind of rule was put into place, then teams would just guilt trip the guy and say hey, if you come play with us, we're just going to lose anyway, or we're not going to sure. You're going to look terrible anyway, all this kind of stuff. They will do that. I know teams are very good at ganging up on one player when things are tough. And so I don't think there's a way to protect them in ways that say, hey, as long as it's on their own terms, they're allowed to get kicked. So at that point, you have to basically say to a team, you're not allowed to change no matter what. We don't care. And you'd have to draw a very distinct line saying no roster changes no matter what. And if you lose a player other than a medical emergency, then you have to back out of the tournament. Like that would be what they would have to do, in my opinion, to actually accomplish keeping players from getting kicked before the event. I think it would have to be very drastic, something very over the top. And if they don't do that, it's just not going to work. So at that point, it comes to the argument that is it even worth theory crafting if I know Valve's not going to do that?
You can never think like that, BSJ.
Yeah, I know.
Or else they'll never potentially do it, but you're probably right, yeah.
Yeah, some things can be solved by like a simple mandate of a rule or something. I feel like this would take an entire shift in the rule book entirely. It would change a lot of rules, and it would change a lot of the dynamics of how teams approach everything, because they would have to change that. And I think it should not happen. I think it's messed up that you can put all the time and effort into qualifying for an event, have the excitement of making it to the event, and then just not even being in the event. I think that's messed up. And the fact that it's still happening is sad. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, this is definitely something that would certainly require almost a deeper discussion, so not to get too deep in it, but of course there's even the argument of this is why we need something like a players association and more better contracts to be signed with the players in the first place to not even allow this to happen. But as you brought up, and that's definitely a direction I was thinking as well, in which will they in the end, maybe not, but Valve needing to step in and making it more strict when it comes to the roster rules for their DPC specific events, saying if you qualify with a certain roster, you go to that event with that specific roster, and that in itself is almost Valve stepping in and protecting the players. There's been examples. I remember one way back in the day for TI. It was maybe TI 3. It was the old school Fnatic squad where I believe it was Era, the player Era. For some reason, he was removed from the team or something like that. Or I can't really remember the specifics on that one. So a more recent one would be TI. That would have been TI 8 with Empire. Of course, most famously Resolution coming in and playing for Empire as a result of Chappie not being able to attend the event. But frankly, I don't think it ever really came out 100% why that was the case. It was maybe some visa issues, but I heard behind the scenes it was more of a Empire kind of just felt like they would be better off with Resolution, and so they kind of made that work for their benefit in the end. So that teams will do this, and it's understandable they'll do it because they have the power, they have the ability to do this. And whether or not so implementing a rule from Valve to sit here and be like you have to go with the same 5 players unless it's like a medical issue or whatever, the unfortunate thing is I don't even know if that is necessarily enough, because you will potentially have teams loopholing around that, saying, oh, well, it was a medical issue or it was a visa issue or whatever, even though it may not have been in the end. They just use that as that simple excuse. So I think it's almost unfortunate to say, but even if Valve steps in and gives that ruling, it needs to be more to it in terms of the players' side of things with said player association or whatever comes from that, with their contracts specifically, with the teams needing to just be that much stronger and that much more in their favor, or else it's just going to keep happening at this point.
I mean, I would even be fine if Valve says like teams are required to pay the 5 players that qualified equally, meaning that like maybe they could just make it about money. Because I think the core root of the problem is that if you have a group of Dota players that don't want to play with one guy, that team has absolutely no chance of being successful. I've been on teams like that where people harbor ill wills towards one player because they don't enjoy playing with them, don't get along with them. And at that point, if you've reached that point, there's no salvaging the situation. Like you just have to kick one of the 2 participating parties. And my point being is that everything you said I agree with, that it's just not going to work, because I really do think it's because of that reason, that teams will always realize that they'll find a way. Like they will find a way, and even it might not even be good if Valve required teams to stay together, because that wouldn't give us the best Dota, in the sense that maybe before qualifiers, they just had to find somebody to play, and it wasn't their optimal player. And are you really going to punish them for having such short time between two events? Like that's also another debate because it's kind of goes from one major right into the next cycle. But the big thing for me would be considering the money. I think as of now, most times when somebody gets kicked, they get like last place money for the event. That's usually what I think they do, something along those lines. But I think if he was a part of Geek Fam and Geek Fam wins it, he should get his championship. Like I think the player that's coming in for them, like I think he should get paid. So if you're going to swap rosters, you're dividing everyone's paycheck from 20% to 16%. You're all losing a fifth of what you would have won in the event. And I think that most teams will be willing to make that sacrifice if they think that 1/5 is still going to be more than what they would have made with that other player. But then it comes down to an actual decision for these players. There's ups and downs about choosing either direction. Right now, it feels like, why wouldn't you? Exactly like you said, like, why wouldn't you, if you think you have a better player or a better option, why wouldn't you kick them? There's no reason not to. And I think that that's the problem is there's no deterrent. There's no argument to not do it. And that's if they can creatively work around that, I think that's how they fix it.
Yeah, it's definitely a topic that can go much deeper in the end, and maybe something to talk about or keep an eye on for the future to see if it does continue to happen. Because, like we said, this isn't the first time it's happened, and it certainly will not be the last where a player is ultimately removed after qualifying with said team and not getting to participate in the event itself. But yeah, making it about money is certainly at least a good start. And no specifics are coming out, but yeah, you would hope that at least in both Skitter's case as well as Ryoya, they're getting their fair share for helping said teams qualify, at least for the events in the end. So, but that's just kind of a sore subject going into the event. Overall, this minor is certainly an event to look forward to. We're getting back into Dota. We're getting back in the swing of things after a new year and the holiday break and everything. And obviously on the new patch, yes, we've had an event, but now it's serious time, I guess you could say. This is DPC points. This is ultimately that TI 10 spot on the line, way down the road, and teams competing for that. So that's what we got to look forward to, and that'll start on Thursday. One other subject before potentially even wrapping up here in the near future on the WePlay side of things was anything meta-wise that maybe we should expect to see, specifically that we learned from the Esports 1 event, or something that you would almost like to see after seeing the Esports 1 event, and now that we've had a little bit of time, is there something that may pop up, you think, at this event that we didn't see as much? I'll put it that way.
My personal opinion is that the carry hero pool is really small. I also think that the offlane hero pool is very fragile. So when you combine, what I mean by that is most offlaners, other than pretty much like Doom, are very susceptible to just getting dumpstered 3v1, or even in a 2v2 bad lane or something. So I think what this leads to is this meta, even more so than usual, requiring you to pick super OP laners that just get what they get early on in the draft, like these tinies, pucks, trees. Tree obviously not getting himself as a support, but he secures one of his teammates the lane because you need to be able to delay that offlane pick as much as possible, or at least guarantee it a decent lane. And then the hero pool for carries, since it's so small, doesn't really benefit you to last pick a carry because by that point, all the good carries are just gone. They're not in the hero pool anymore. So my point is that I'm a little bit concerned that the meta is just going to be even more stale than it already is. And I'm hoping that I'm wrong, but I think that we're going to see Slark Morphling be 80% of the carry. Slark Morphling PL almost every game. We're going to see, in terms of supports, Venge Tree, almost every single game, maybe some IOs in there. I think Wyvern's also very good. And then we're going to see the pucks. We're going to see, I think Underlord's going to make a huge appearance. If I had to make one pick about what hero is going to be seeing a ton of play, it's going to be Underlord. I think he's really good against everything that's good. And that's, like I said, in my opinion, what teams will do is they'll find heroes that are just really good against the broken heroes. Damage reduction against Tiny, You have the root against these pucks, slarks, and morphlings. The damage, like the base stats, all these heroes rely heavily on their base stats to do damage. So, yeah, I'm hoping that the meta is not too stale, but I do think that the broken heroes are on their own tier right now, and I'm a little upset that Valve didn't balance based on the one esports tournament, because I know it's not a Valve event, but I think it was pretty clear how favored some of these heroes were, and I don't think it's a coincidence. I don't think any of them were a fluke. So
sure. One other thing to keep in mind on what you're saying there, too, is that, yes, this is the first DPC event since the patch, especially. But to be fair, it's the minor, and, nothing against the teams, obviously. Maybe not as high-tier competition as the major, but it's also only 8 teams compared to 16. And with the format, it is pretty limiting in the amount of matches that we are going to see. We're going to see many more matches at the major, which is a couple weeks to follow, of course, the DreamHack major right there. So that's something else to keep in mind. This should help be a preview, though, ideally, as far as what to expect ultimately at that major coming up around the corner as well. But yeah, excited for it again with this new patch and everything. I know myself and many others are certainly intrigued to see what the top players are going to be doing with said strategies, from the neutral items themselves to all the objectives and what heroes, as you're pointing out there, we're likely to see as well. Underlord is definitely one that I am hopeful for as well, and especially if you played in the idea using his ultimate aggressively with that Dark Rift can be a lot of fun to watch. And so
any global mobility, I think, is going to be really strong. So
sure,
Underlord fits that perfectly.
Spectre's coming back?
No, sorry, that hero's too bad. Like, the thing about Spectre is she just takes too many items and like too long to be a hero. Like the IOs, the Underlords, they're so fast in terms of the pace of the game that they're trying to set. Yeah. So they just buy some team fight items, some heal sustain items, and they're doing their job. Spectre, on the other hand, is like the carry that needs time, and she's not like a threat until she has that time. And I don't think this patch is about like turtling. I don't think the Tinkers, the Spectres of the world, most notably like Zeus either. Like, yeah, Zeus I think is actually kind of situational, but most of these heroes, that their ideal way of playing the game is by kind of turtling until they come online. I don't think those heroes are good right now.
Fair enough. All right, all starts Thursday, guys, and BSJ, again, you're going to be leaving on a plane even later today, so I want to thank you once again. I know not to really remind you there, but hey, like I said, hopefully get some good rest on the plane and wake up, all of a sudden you're in Ukraine and on a ski resort, looking forward to casting some Dota and some awesome outfits.
And hitting the slopes.
Hitting the slopes, indeed. I'm sure they're going to have you do that. Like I say, you get a couple of days before the event starts, as we're just finding out now, too. So I'm sure some ski time is of potential for you right
ready.
there. But
my body is ready.
It's good to hear, man. Anything else before we officially wrap up?
Nothing major really from me, man. I'm excited for this event for all the reasons we talked about. I even if the meta is kind of stale, I always love Dota in general, and being a part of the scene and getting to see up close and analyze these games. So I always look forward to it. So I'm looking forward to it once again, and I guess I'll see you guys there at the minor, if not actually there, on the screen or whatever. So yeah, that's it for me, man.
All right, have fun with the WePlay staff there. Again, they are a great group of guys, and I'm sure you are going to enjoy the event and look forward to that production once again myself, as I know many tuning in are. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to wrap up with the podcast, though, for this week. Like I said, obviously a Sunday podcast special edition with the circumstances. Speaking of that, next week we're still trying to figure out maybe Monday, possibly Tuesday, sometime in the week, because obviously with BSJ them returning, that could also affect scheduling there as well. But the point is, we definitely plan to be back next week for another podcast and continue things going as the season moves along right here. So enjoy the minor. We'll be on next time to, of course, recap the minor and then start previewing that major amongst other topics that happen to come up as well. So shout out to you guys for tuning in. Have a good night, day, wherever you are. Enjoy the minor, and we will see you next time here on the Wombo Combo Podcast. Until then, ladies and gentlemen.